Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. I'm your host, Mike Briggs, and what we do here at Central Valley Talk is we celebrate what's good about Fresno, not just Fresno, but the whole valley. There's so many people doing good things in our community, and when we find them, we want to spotlight them and introduce them to you. Our next guest is Phil Flanigan from the law offices of Philip M. Flanigan. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you, Mike.
Now you do, what would you call it, estate planning?
Estate planning, probate and trust administration. We also practice an area called elder law, which involves helping people qualify for long-term care benefits through Medi-Cal and protecting their assets.
I'm very interested in this, I guess you call it estate planning, trust, wills, stuff like that?
Correct.
Is that all estate planning?
That's all estate planning, as well as durable power of attorney documents, advanced health care directives, essentially documents to enable people to act on your behalf if you're incapacitated,
right,
and also helping specify what happens after you pass away.
Now, you get that stuff done for people, but most of us, our experience with all those things you just listed are those that didn't do it.
There are a lot of people who don't do it,
right,
unfortunately.
And that's how most of us are introduced to it. When something happens, we weren't ready.
Yeah, I think I was telling somebody that yesterday, in fact, that most people don't really understand the importance of having these kinds of documents in place until the time comes where they need it. And obviously, then they realize how important the documents are, and oftentimes now it creates a real hardship for the family members.
When should people start? Well, I was going to ask you this just halfway serious, but who needs you? Who needs this kind of service?
I always tell people everybody does.
Yeah, everybody
if you're
does.
over 18, you're an adult. If something were to happen, mom and dad can no longer make decisions on your behalf.
Oh, I see.
Now you need to have some kind of legal document in place that enables someone to act on your behalf, whether it's handling your business and financial affairs, paying your bills, or making health care decisions for you. So realistically, anybody over 18 should have some really basic estate planning documents in place. And obviously, as we get older and we have more assets and families, and it becomes a little bit more complicated. But again, really everybody should benefit from having something in place.
Except that guy that's going to live forever, maybe.
Well, there's always a few of those.
Yeah, that's the problem. You know, it always comes up to so when people turn in 18, even that's when they should start thinking about these things.
Well, I mean, most 18-year-olds are not going to think about becoming incapacitated or passing away, but the parents really need to do that on their behalf. You were talking right before the show about sending your children to school. When parents send their kids away to college, what if something were to happen to those kids while they were away?
I didn't think about that. They're adults. They're adults
absolutely.
now. So.
And parents try and call and get information, and they may not be able to. If you're paying tuition, you want to know that your kid's going to class.
Yeah. Now, how about when people first start a family? They're married, they have their first baby. What should they be doing?
Well, I tell people the first time I ever did a will, I was probably 26, 27 years old. And, you know, what do I need a will for? My wife's best friend, her brother and sister-in-law were killed in a private plane crash. And what ensued afterwards was a huge custody battle over their 3 children who were at home with a babysitter. So when you have minor children, it's extremely important that you have a document, a will, or something in place that nominates guardians for those children. It's the most important decision you will ever make, and one that you hope you'll never use.
Yeah, and wouldn't you like to decide where your kids go?
Absolutely.
They didn't have a choice then.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not sure if I've ever had it happen to any of my clients that I know of, but I've had 2 friends where they've gone through that situation, and in both cases, there was a fight over who was going to raise the kids. Money's a separate issue, right? And we always think about the money, but again, who would be raising your children? How would they be disciplined? If you're religious, are they going to go to church? Where would they go to school? There are so many complicated issues. You never, ever want to leave that to chance.
Now, I say I've learned about this stuff from people who haven't done it, who were not prepared. I can't tell you how many families I've seen fall apart over, the disposition of assets after grandma and grandpa pass away.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I have one just yesterday dealing with it where, dad's ill and in the hospital, and it's a second marriage. They have children from prior relationships, and the kids don't get along, and now there's going to be a big fight over assets. And it's unfortunate because all of that could have been avoided with some good planning.
And it's a recipe to break up a family.
Oh, for sure.
After that. What is a trust? Tell me what that is.
Well, a revocable living trust is an estate planning tool that we utilize. It's very similar to a will, allowing you to specify who's going to be in charge of administering the estate when you pass. It also allows you to specify who the assets are going to go to and under what circumstances. The biggest advantage of a revocable living trust is when it comes time to transfer assets after death, we're eliminating the need for a signature that we can't get. When you have your home and it's in your name, you're the only person in the world who could change ownership. Well, if you passed away, how do we get that ownership changed? Because I need you to sign a deed, you're deceased, now we need a signature we can't get, and our only option at that point is to go to court, go through the process we call probate, which is very time-consuming and very expensive.
Yeah.
The revocable living trust enables us to pass assets on to the next generation or our heirs or beneficiaries without the necessity of going to court.
Is there a tax implication in that?
Not a significant tax implication. It's going to be very similar to whether you died with a will or without a will. Certainly with married couples, we do have some options to do some planning to take advantage of the estate tax exemption equivalent that's available to both spouses. But otherwise, not a significant tax implication, no.
But it's going to avoid a lot of problems down the road.
Oh, absolutely.
Smooth sailing.
Well, number one, with any estate plan, you want to have clarity, right? When you have some clarity in terms of what you want to have happen with your estate, it avoids that conflict. It avoids fighting. Now it's, the person in charge can say, I'm just following what mom or dad set forth. I'm just following their wishes. It's not my decision. And everything is laid out very clearly, and it eliminates conflict and fighting.
Why do you think people don't take care of these things?
I think I always tell people there's two reasons. One, I think, is lack of education. There are a lot of people who just don't know what would happen if they passed away or if they became incapacitated even. Right. And they don't realize that even though they have, very modest assets, they've got a home and maybe a couple dollars in the bank, that the process to transfer those assets would still entail going to court. A lot of people don't think that. And the other reason I think probably common to a lot of us is just procrastination.
Yep.
We know it's important. We know we need to do it. But, it's one of those things I'll do next week, right? It's like cleaning the garage.
Do you think they don't do it because they think it might be expensive to go see you?
I don't find that, people hesitate because of cost. I think it's realistically, it's lack of education, or it's just putting it off, thinking they have more time. And, most people, majority of my clients are probably over 60 years old. And yet they should have been doing planning when their kids were little. But they just put it off, or they didn't know that it was important to have something in place.
Who out there of our viewers would you say, hey, you need me the most, you should call me right away?
Well, really anybody. I mean, certainly if you have minor children, I think it's extremely important to nominate guardians. I mean, I can't overstress that enough. If you're a little bit older, obviously, things can happen. What I've realized, and I'm sure you have, as we get into our 50s and 60s, we start seeing people around us who pass away suddenly, heart attacks, car accidents, illnesses. When COVID hit, I mean, a lot of things happened to people very, very quickly. And we just don't know when our time is going to come. Right. And we don't want to leave things to chance, like who would raise our kids, who are our assets going to go to, who's going to be in charge. So it really, the people who need us now are the people who don't have a plan. At least find out what your options are.
Right. So for our viewers, hopefully we've scared them into saying, I better do this now. And by the way, you're right, 60 years old, I'm 65. People around me are dropping like flies,
Yes.
And it's quite a time. But where should they do? Should they go to your website? Should they call you on the number on the screen?
Either way, if you want, you can go to the website, which is pmflaw.com. And has a lot of information about us on there. There's also an estate planning application under the estate planning tab. I always tell people, fill that out as best you can. Call the office, schedule a free consultation. You'll come in, you'll sit down with me, and we'll talk about your options. There's no obligation. So if you meet with me and for whatever reason you decide you don't want to have me do your plan, that's okay. you'll leave with more information, which can't hurt you.
Very good. And I told you before we came on the air, I clicked around your website. It was very good. I learned a lot
thank you.
doing that. So I think I'd like to do that before I come and bug you. So go look at the website or call 559-435-0455. Anything else you want our viewers to know?
No, just don't hesitate to call if you have questions, and don't put this off any longer.
Yeah, don't put it off. We'll be back with more Central Valley Talk right after this.